Okay, so there's going to be sometimes you have an endpoint and a midpoint, and you're trying to find the other endpoint. Now, there's mathematical ways you can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to try to show you what I think is going to be the easiest for you. Now, before I do, I'm going to explain what the harder route would be, but you still need to understand the math there. So our midpoint formula, what we end up doing, we take the average of the x's, then the average of the y's. That's what this x1 plus x2 divided by 2 is, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2 is. So if we were going to go backwards, the last thing we do here is divide by 2 on each one. That's to get the midpoint. So if we wanted to find the endpoint that is missing, then what we would want to do is we would want to multiply the x value by 2 and then subtract the endpoint that we have. And then the same thing with y. We would want to multiply the y value by 2 and then subtract the endpoint we have. And I mean, we can do that. It's not a big deal. We can say, okay, well, 2 times 5 minus 3 is going to give us our x value that's missing. 2 times 5 is 10, minus 3 is going to give us 7. And then we can also say, well, 2 times 8 minus 5 is going to give us our missing endpoint. 2 times 8 is 16. If we subtract 5, we get 11. Hey, that says our missing point is going to be 7, 11. That might be a little bit hard for some of y'all to understand. But check this out. I've already got it lined up for you, basically. Let's say we wanted to go ahead and just do it the quicker way. We'll just call this, we'll just put endpoint there. So we got an endpoint. We're going to say this is going to be a line. From here to here is going in a straight line. So endpoint, midpoint, endpoint. Well, to do that, all we have to do is say, okay, well, let's see what's the distance between the x values from this endpoint to that midpoint. Because whatever this distance is, the distance from here to here has got to be the same. And the same with the y. So if we go from 5 to 8 with our y value, we got to go the same distance from the midpoint to the other endpoint. So from the first endpoint to the midpoint, we go up 2 on our x. Now let's just add 2 to our midpoint. Gets us to our endpoint on the other side. And then from 5 to 8, looks like we went up by 3. So let's add 3 to the 8. We get 11. Either way it works. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, I think most of you are probably going to get this a little bit quicker. Just because you're doing simple sequencing, really. You're adding 2 here, so you add 2 down here. Add 3 here, so add 3 down here. And you can do it anything. Just go ahead and put your endpoints in there, put the midpoint, and then do another endpoint, and you can just go straight in order like that. So let's make one up. Let's say endpoint, midpoint, and we'll just throw some numbers in there. Let's say -3, 7, and make this -1 and 5. And then let's see what we're going to get for our other endpoint, our missing endpoint. So from -3 to -1, we go up by 2. It's negative numbers. Make sure you pay attention to that. So if we add 2 to -1, well, we get a positive 1. And then on our y values, we go from 7 to 5. Well, that's going down 2. So we subtract 2 from 5. We end up with 3. See what I mean? It's just so quick. It's so quick to just do it this way. Now, you can do what we did over here. Again, that was just multiplying the midpoint values by 2 and then subtracting whatever endpoint value you have. You do that for x and y, you still get the point. Doesn't really matter. As long as you're comfortable with it, that's all we're looking for there.